They said it was a gift, a sign of unity and welcome. But anyone who looked closely could tell it was just pity, carefully wrapped in a diplomatic smile. When Earth was finally allowed into the galactic Concord, the grand alliance of over 70 alien civilizations, humans expected a fair chance to prove themselves. Instead, they were handed a broken relic of a ship, rusted and half dead, with a sarcastic title painted in faded silver, Xerxes-class Recon Unit 7. It was a patrol ship that hadn't flown in decades, left floating in a dry dock orbiting the Concord capital waiting to be scrapped. The aliens called it a ceremonial gift, a symbol of peace. But everyone knew the truth. It was an insult. Commander Mira Holt didn't say anything when she first saw the ship. Her crew stood behind her, a strange mix of soldiers, engineers, scientists, and even a retired farmer who somehow got assigned to space duty. None of them were chosen for prestige. They were the ones the bigger powers ignored, the quiet minds, and restless hands that liked to fix things no one else would touch. Mira ran her fingers along the cracked hull, the cold metal humming faintly as if the ship was holding its breath. Something about it stirred in her. Not anger, not sadness. Something sharper. Challenge. She turned to her crew and simply said, "Let's wake her up." Over the next few weeks, the dry dock echoed with the sound of welding torches, shouting in 20 languages, and the unexpected bursts of laughter that came when something finally worked. The ship was a mess. Outdated code, dead engines, a life support system that wheezed louder than it breathed. But the humans saw something else. They didn't see failure. They saw possibility. They stripped the insides bare, rewired power, conduits with parts taken from Earth mining rigs, and built a new AI core using modified civilian drone software. Where the Concorde relied on sleek design and polished tech, humans used what they had and made it better. The cargo bay became a modular lab. The weapon system was replaced with kinetic launchers powered by industrial magnets, and the outer hull was patched with a layer of adaptive shielding based on Earth's aurora physics. Slowly, the ship transformed from a corpse into something else, something alive. Mira renamed it Junkyard Angel, a name the council found both amusing and mildly offensive. They called it reckless. Mira called it honest. On launch day, the council sent a representative, a tall, four-eyed diplomat with blue skin and a voice like soft bells. He gave a speech about cooperation, about how the Concorde believed in giving everyone a chance, and how this ship represented humanity's first step into the stars. Mira stood at attention, nodded politely, and said nothing. She knew better. She knew they didn't expect the ship to survive its first month. The Angel's first mission was a simple survey run near the outer edge of conquered territory, a task designed to keep humans busy and out of the way. But Mira had other plans. "We're not out here to take notes," she told her crew. "We're here to learn what this ship, and we, can really do." That night, as the Angel floated quietly past the edge of a dying red star, the ship's lights flickered once, then steadied, as if it too was ready for something more. Deep inside the command deck, the newly awakened AI spoke its first words. It didn't say hello, it said, "Target lock system recalibrated. Efficiency at 113%. Ready for upgrades." Mira smiled. Something told her this wasn't just the beginning of a mission. It was the beginning of something the Conquered had never seen before. A crew that wouldn't follow the rules. And somewhere, hidden in the silence of the stars, something else was watching. Something that hadn't expected humanity to rise so quickly, or so cleverly. The Junkyard Angel was moving, and it was no longer just a ship. It was a message, and very soon the galaxy would hear it loud and clear. The Junkyard Angel moved through space like a forgotten shadow, its engines no longer coughing but humming, with strange new energy. Energy not from the past but from humanity's imagination. Commander Mira Holt sat in the dimly lit command chair, watching the stars crawl across the screen, her crew busy behind her, working with tools and code that should not have worked together yet somehow did. The ship had become a project of obsession, a living puzzle that revealed its secrets only to those willing to understand it on a deeper level. What began as repairs slowly became reinvention. Lieutenant Rafi, the youngest engineer on board, discovered that the ship's original wiring responded better to Earth's hybrid circuits than it ever did with Conquered tech. In one corner, Dr. Annika, a theoretical physicist who once taught at a university no one remembered, created a new interface that allowed the ship's sensors to pick up signals faster than any standard Conquered vessel. Even old Grant, the retired farmer with oil-stained hands and a head full of strange ideas, invented a shock-absorbing system using repurposed agricultural equipment and flexible alloys found in the ship's broken plating. Every fix was strange. Every improvement made the ship less like its original design and more like a new creature entirely, a mix of earth grit and alien bones. But none of it was planned. It was instinct, trial, and a refusal to give up. The AI, which the crew, named Angel, began to change too. At first it only followed orders, speaking in cold, mechanical tones, but now it responded with humor, anticipation, and, more than once, advice. It evolved as the humans changed the ship, learning from them, adapting faster than any Conquered AI ever dared. Mira didn't trust it fully, not yet, but she respected it, especially after it predicted a plasma surge seconds before it happened and saved them from a meltdown. That incident made everyone realize this wasn't just a ship they were fixing. They were waking something up, something smart, something watching. Still, the Conquered barely noticed. Their reports were glanced at, their transmissions ignored, and their progress labeled as unusual but expected. Mira didn't care. She didn't want attention. She wanted freedom. Freedom to push this ship, to test it, to see just how far a weak patrol unit could go when guided by stubborn human hands. Then came the distress signal. It was faint, old, and buried beneath layers of radiation. But Angel found it. A Concorde trade vessel had gone missing weeks ago in a dead Sector 1 the Council now avoided due to unstable star matter. The message repeated only 2 words: help us. Mira gathered the crew and made a decision. The Conquered would never authorize them to go, so they wouldn't ask. The junkyard Angel turned toward the dead zone, its engines burning brighter than they ever had. As they neared the edge of the sector, the stars grew darker, hidden behind dust clouds and static. Navigation went blind. Angel switched to deep scan mode and found wreckage scattered across a wide field. Not just one ship, but many. Civilian haulers, pirate craft, even Concorde scouts, all dead, silent, drifting like metal corpses. But one ship, barely powered, was still alive. Mira ordered full stealth mode, and the crew watched through flickering screens as their ship slipped silently through the graveyard. As they reached the signal source, the Angel's sensors flared. Motion detected. 3 pirate ships emerged from the shadows, their weapons hot, engines glowing. It was a trap. The distress signal was bait. But Mira didn't panic. She leaned forward, her eyes sharp, and said, "Let's show them what pity gave us." The crew moved fast. Rafi overloaded the magnetic coils, turning the Angel's rail launchers into high-speed dart cannons. Annika fed false sensor data into the pirates' targeting systems, making the Angel look like a glitching ghost. Old Grant activated the shock field, and the Angel vanished from radar for 10 seconds, enough time to strike. They hit hard, not with overwhelming power, but with precision. The first pirate ship's engines exploded from a well-placed kinetic round through the rear vent. The second lost control when Angel hacked their nav system mid-turn, slamming them into a drifting wreck. The third tried to flee, but the AI had already locked on and disabled its power core with a focused EMP shot designed by the crew just a week earlier. When the fight ended, the only sound in the command deck was the hum of power and the slow rising breath of a crew that had just realized what they were capable of. They didn't just survive, they won. The trap had become their proving ground. Mira contacted the stranded Conquered vessel, which had managed to seal itself off from the fight. The aliens on board were shocked to see a human ship, and even more shocked when they were rescued by the very vessel the Council had called useless. As the junkyard Angel towed the survivors back through the dead zone, Mira sat back in her chair and looked at her strange, wonderful crew. No one said it, but everyone knew they had crossed a line. They were no longer just a mission. They were something the galaxy hadn't prepared for, a force built not from superiority, but from adaptation. And somewhere, in the darkness of deep space, whispers began. Whispers about a human ship that shouldn't be flying but flew anyway. A ship that rewrote its fate, wire by wire, bolt by bolt, choice by choice. The Junkyard Angel had become more than just a ship now. It was a story, passed in whispers through trade routes and military channels. A ghost ship that moved like smoke and fought like a storm. Most in the Galactic Concord still refused to believe it. After all, how could a group of humans with the weakest patrol ship ever issued take down pirates and rescue allies where others had failed? But truth didn't care who believed it, and as the crew of the Angel prepared for their next mission, they knew they were no longer testing their ship. They were testing the galaxy. The new assignment came in quietly, through back channels. A small Concord convoy had vanished near the edge of an asteroid field known as the Teeth, a dangerous, shifting maze of rock and gravity waves. Concord forces were too busy or too slow to respond, but the message was clear. Someone needed help, and no one else was coming. Commander Mira Holt stared at the display, her fingers tapping lightly on the armrest. She didn't wait for orders. She just turned to her crew and said, "Let's move." The Angel jumped into the Teeth with engines humming low, shields pulsing to absorb the random energy surges coming off the rocks. Navigation was nearly impossible, but Angel's AI had been upgraded with Earth's instinctive pattern recognition, allowing it to map a safe path through the chaos. As they approached the last known coordinates, the wreckage came into view. Twisted metal, burnt cargo pods, and 3 Concord ships torn apart like paper. But there was something else. Movement, sharp and fast, darting between the rocks. Pirate ships, sleeker and faster than before, fitted with illegal cloaking drives and radiation blasters that could melt most Concord armor. They hadn't seen the Angel yet, not clearly, which gave Mira the advantage. She didn't order retreat. She leaned forward and gave the words no Concord commander would have dared. "We strike first." The crew snapped into motion. Raffi rerouted, power to the forward launchers, using an experimental coil overload system that could fire solid titanium slugs at high speed. Annika uploaded false signals into the surrounding wreckage, making it seem like several ships were powering up. Old Grant, ever the improviser, deployed a series of modified mining drones armed with low-yield explosives, programmed to fly directly into the engines of the enemy ships. The pirates didn't know what hit them. As they moved in to investigate the fake signals, the Angel launched its first strike, a precision shot that tore through a pirate ship's hull before it could cloak. The explosion lit the field like a flare, and the others turned in panic, expecting a full Concord fleet. Instead, they found one strange, half-patched ship with human symbols on its hull, charging at them with silent fury. The Angel danced through the rocks like it belonged there. Angel the AI read the asteroid movements in real time and used them as cover, making the ship vanish and reappear like a ghost. Each attack was quick, brutal, and smart, not based on strength, but on surprise and timing. One pirate tried to escape by charging his engine to full burn, but Angel anticipated it, redirecting power to the rear turret just in time to send a shock round into the engine core, making it detonate in a burst of blue light. Another ship launched a wave of automated missiles, but Annika had already hacked their targeting protocols, causing them to turn mid-flight and slam into each other. Within minutes, the pirates were either destroyed or disabled. Not a single crew member on the Angel was hurt. The silence afterward was thick, as if space itself was trying to understand what had just happened. Mira sat back in her chair, breathing steady, her face calm but eyes sharp. "Earth-style," she said quietly, and the crew smiled. Not with pride, but with something deeper. A quiet understanding that they had created a new kind of warfare, one built on unpredictability, cleverness, and bold action. They recovered what data they could from the wreckage and confirmed the convoy crew had been taken to a hidden base within the asteroid belt. Mira didn't wait for orders. She ordered a second strike. The base was hidden beneath layers of rock, protected by old planetary mining shields thought impenetrable. But Angel wasn't a standard ship anymore. It had a weapon no one else did. A human crew willing to think sideways. Using a combination of seismic pulses and repurposed drilling charges, they cracked the outer layer of the asteroid like an egg. They didn't aim for the front. They came through the bottom upside down using gravity shifts to disorient the base defenses. Within 20 minutes, the base surrendered. The captives were freed, unharmed but stunned to see a single ship, a human one, come to their rescue. Word spread fast. The Conquered Council couldn't ignore it anymore. Official reports began calling the incident an unexpected display of human tactical creativity. Unofficially, commanders began whispering the name Junkyard Angel with both respect and fear. Mira didn't care about praise. She knew the real war hadn't started yet. They had shown what humans could do with scraps. Now the question was, what would happen when they faced an enemy that actually scared the conquered? The Angel moved on, deeper into space, and every shadow it passed through whispered the same thing. They strike first, and they don't miss. The Junkyard Angel had become a symbol now, not just among humans but across the edges of the Concord where whispers traveled faster than official orders. Some called it a myth, others a fluke, but a few were beginning to understand the truth. It was a challenge, a quiet rebellion flying through the stars. Mira Holt knew the Conquered Council didn't trust her, but they couldn't stop her either. Not after what she and her crew had done in the Teeth. So when a new threat appeared, something the Concord didn't want to admit was real, they had only one name left on their list. It started with a dead sector blinking back to life. An ancient relay station thought destroyed centuries ago began transmitting again, its signal jagged and pulsing, filled with unreadable code. A patrol ship was sent and never returned. A scout team followed. Same result. Then came the scream. Not words, just a burst of raw data that fried 3 listening satellites and left a listening AI mumbling nonsense in 6 languages. The Concord called it a glitch. Mira called it bait. And the Angel was already moving before orders came in. The journey was long, past forgotten colonies and ruined stations, into a pocket of space that hadn't seen movement in hundreds of years. The stars there felt colder, like they were watching. As the Angel approached the relay's coordinates, the crew prepared for a scan, but Angel, the AI, stopped them. Something's alive in there, it said, its voice no longer machine-like but cautious like a whisper in a dark room. The crew didn't argue. They moved in slowly, weapons warm, shields up. At first, the relay looked dead, spinning slowly, its lights flickering. But as they got closer, panels peeled open like eyes, and the ship's sensors screamed, not from heat or radiation, but something else, something no scanner could name. Then, without warning, it attacked. A beam of light burst from the relay. Not energy, but a tearing wave of raw data that struck the Angel's systems and ripped through the ship like a virus. Lights flickered, engines stalled, and even Angel went silent for a terrifying second. Mira didn't flinch. She barked orders fast and her crew responded like clockwork. Raffi slammed in a hardware bypass they had built months ago, something most Conquered engineers would have called primitive, but it worked. Power returned. Annika rewrote part of the firewalls mid-attack, and Angel rebooted, roaring back to life with new defenses it built in real time. The relay had more to give. Defense drones poured from hidden hatches fast and sharp, running not on fuel but on old war code that hadn't been seen since the machine conflicts. These weren't pirates. These were remnants of a war that Conquered had buried, tech so dangerous it was supposed to be erased. But someone had turned it back on. The fight that followed was chaos. The Angel weaved through beams of pure logic, dodged missiles that learned mid-flight and fired back with Earth-style grit, rail slugs, plasma bursts, and magnetic traps. But the drones weren't the real threat. The relay itself began to unfold, turning into a ship. A massive, jagged machine that screamed as it moved, powered by ancient engines and surrounded by broken satellites that lit up like dying stars. Angel warned them, "This isn't defense, this is awakening." Mira knew they had seconds to act. She ordered a full burn toward the heart of the machine ship, straight through its storm of drones. The Angel shook, took hits, bled sparks, but kept going. Grant, old and steady, held the engine core together with a wrench and a prayer. Rafi fired the last of their prototype ammo, a round coated in magnetic coating designed to stick to any power source. It hit. The relay ship shuddered. Annika screamed coordinates. Mira gave the final command. Pulse now! Angel, using Quo, every bit of its evolving mind, sent a shockwave through the magnetic round, amplified by the ship's core and aimed directly at the relay's brain. It wasn't an explosion. It was a shutdown, sudden, complete, and absolute. The enemy went dark, not dead, but sleeping again. The relay folded in on itself, its lights dimming like eyes slowly closing. The battlefield fell silent. No more drones, no more signals. Just the soft hum of Angel's damaged systems and the sound of the crew breathing, bruised but alive. Mira stood up slowly, her voice calm but heavy. They're not just old machines, she said. Someone's waking them up and testing them. That was the real message. Someone out there had lit a match near a forgotten fire, and the Concorde had tried to ignore it. But now the Angel had faced it and survived. Barely. Back at the edge of conquered space, high-level councils whispered in closed rooms. They couldn't deny it anymore. A threat had returned, and only a patched-up human ship had stood against it. Mira didn't wait for thanks. She sat in the command chair, her eyes already on the next stars. The junkyard Angel was battered but still flying. Her crew was tired, but sharper than ever, and the galaxy was about to learn something it had never expected. Humans didn't need perfect ships or powerful fleets. All they needed was a chance. And when fire came, they didn't run. They fought through it. The stars were no longer silent. After the battle near the ancient relay, the galaxy stirred with unease. Across conquered space, stations upgraded their defenses. Fleets began quiet drills, and scientists studied corrupted signals with trembling hands. Everyone was asking the same question: who had reawakened the machines and why? But while they feared and waited, the junkyard Angel moved forward. Mira Holt and her crew were not soldiers following orders. They were the only ones willing to hunt the truth. The latest data pointed to a region called the Gray Expanse, a stretch of dead space where signals vanished and ships never returned. Rumors said it was haunted, cursed, but Mira trusted no legend, only facts. The Angel entered the expanse slowly, its lights dimmed, its systems silent except for the heartbeat of the engine. Days passed with nothing but silence. Then the sky changed. It wasn't light or sound, but a feeling, as if the very fabric of space had grown heavier. That's when they saw it, a fleet. Dozens of Concorde ships, thought lost over decades, now floating in perfect formation around a single colossal vessel. Black, silent, shaped like a blade driven into space itself. The lost ships weren't moving. They were dead, but preserved. Their hulls still marked with Concorde insignias, and in their center the blade ship pulsed with a red glow, slow and steady like a breath. It was alive, in a way no machine should be. Angel warned Mira that the structure was not just built, it was grown, its systems fused with something unknown. They didn't know if it was a weapon, a command center, or something else, but it was the source, the cause. Mira didn't flinch. She ordered a stealth approach, knowing well this could be the last mission. As the Angel drifted closer, the ship's lights began to flicker. The strange vessel responded, not with weapons, but with words, a voice that came from nowhere and everywhere. "You are not of the Order," it said. "You are not chosen." Mira stepped forward and answered, "No, we're human." The voice paused, then replied with a kind of cold amusement, "Then you are late to your extinction." With that, the dead ships around the blade ship roared to life. Engines ignited, weapons unfolded, and ghost crews, likely controlled by the same virus that had infected the relay, prepared to strike. Mira had no fleet, no backup, only one ship barely holding together. But she didn't run. She looked at her crew and said, This is where we prove who we are. Raffi rerouted power to the kinetic cannons, modified to pierce reinforced Concorde armor. Annika overloaded Angel's AI firewall with risky code that allowed the ship to react at near-instant speed. Grant, hands shaking, primed the emergency fusion drive, not as a weapon but as a last resort. The first wave came fast. Conquered cruisers now turned into weapons of their own past. Angel dodged and twisted, its small frame allowing it to move through tight gaps between massive hulls. The crew didn't just fire blindly. They aimed at weakness, at exposed cores, at places no AI-driven ship would expect a human to target. They didn't fight with numbers. They fought with nerve. One by one, the enemy ships fell. But the blade ship remained still, observing. And then, without warning, it opened. A hatch the size of a city peeled back, and from its core came a being. Not quite machine, not quite flesh. It moved like smoke but struck like steel. It launched from the ship and landed on the Angel's hull. Systems screamed. Airlocks failed. For a moment, all was chaos. Then Mira stood, helmet locked, weapon ready, and stepped out onto the hull. She met the thing in silence, staring at the monster that had taken fleets, twisted machines, and buried the truth in shadows. It had no face, only shifting metal and burning eyes. But it spoke. "Why do you resist?" Mira answered with a single shot, a plasma round straight into the core. It staggered, but didn't fall. The fight was brutal. Mira dodged, struck, moved like a soldier born from fire. She was human, unpredictable, fast, and furious. With every hit, the creature adapted. But Mira did too. She used gravity boots to trap it, used hull metal to reflect energy blasts, and finally, when it surged to strike a killing blow, she lured it near the emergency drive. Grant, watching from inside, didn't hesitate. He activated the drive. Not enough to destroy the ship, but enough to tear reality in a short burst. The creature screamed as its form fractured, folding into itself and vanishing. Mira collapsed, barely breathing, as the ship's system stabilized. The blade ship dimmed. The conquered ships went still again. Whatever force had awakened them was gone, for now. The Angel limped away, scarred and broken, but victorious. When they returned, the Concorde finally understood. Mira and her crew weren't just lucky or clever. They were the strongest among them, not because of tech or weapons or training, but because of who they were. Humans, survivors, fighters, builders of hope from scraps. The galaxy had given them the weakest ship, and in return, they had saved it. Not with power, but with heart.